Uh, we might be out here real quick tonight. I don't see any presenters, so hopefully they'll come along. Otherwise, I'll just tell you right now. We'll go from there. Why am I getting back out? Good question. All right. First order of business, as always, is hopefully all receive the minutes. And I should point out that the minutes carry with it the presentation from the North Hills people. So it's a good one to kind of hang on to. It's got their full presentation with it. Also, there's the video recording with it, all the detail out on YouTube. So between those two, if you want to know what's going on with North Hills, that's available. Also, a couple of us spoke at the planning commission, Pam, myself, and a few others. Um, When as expected, it was approved 7-1. Last time it came up with the planning commission, it was approved 4-1. So there's not much difference. It's going to depend on the council and whether the council pays attention to what the previous council did, whether they pay attention to the Midtown area plan, and then we'll see what happens with that. So, all right, getting back to minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from October?
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion, any corrections, any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval for the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, approved unanimously. All right, as far as the crime report, I don't think we're gonna have one tonight. I don't see anybody here. Nobody out in the parking lot, doesn't look like, so I guess we'll skip that for the time being. I also don't see Het Patel, who is going to present about the northern BRT corridor. They were supposed to be here with the results of the survey. I don't know how many of you realized there was a survey for the northern BRT. I think it closed at the end of October. I don't know the results. It laid out several alternatives for North Hills and alternatives to go to Triangle Center. So my guess is that eventually the BRT will go to both, not one or the other. Um, of the routing that I saw for the northern BRT, and some of you may remember from the survey, if you can just chime in. It's going to start out from downtown up Capitol Boulevard, and then either pick up Atlantic Avenue, or I'm trying to remember, there was an alternative for Atlantic, or pick up Six Forks. The convenient connection to pick up Six Forks was never completed by the city as of yet. It was supposed to be a continuation of Six Forks across Atlantic Avenue connecting to Capitol Boulevard, which would have been very convenient for a bus route. I expect we might see that in the next 10 years, which is about when the BRT will probably come as well. The BRT will not go any further than the North Hills Mall area. So it's just a question how it comes over, whether it comes up Six Forks, a bus is not going to help the traffic on Six Forks, or whether it comes up Atlantic, picks up St. Albans, and then goes to the North Hills area. I can't see a bus making that very easily either. So I've kind of suggested to them they need to be a little more imaginative to find a way that the bus won't get bogged down in the traffic like all the other buses do. So that's my presentation tonight for the Northern BRT. I have a brochure, I'll make a copy of that brochure and I'll send it all out to you. I guess what I could do is go to their website, but I'm not gonna bother. And as far as the people that were supposed to be here for the new water bill system, I don't know how many of you have tried to register through the portal for the new water bill system? Anybody? Any success? Oh, okay, good. Took me 2 days. I don't know how about you, it took me 2 days. I tried it the first time. I kept getting these, I couldn't verify. I went back the next day and was verified. But what occurred is that they're still having a lot of technical issues with it, and they're probably gonna pull it, rather than continue to try to fix it. They're gonna pull it and try to, I guess, reissue it back out.
Ooh, free water.
Yeah. I don't know how they're, I did realize that the old system still works. If you pay your bill electronically like I do, you still can do that. Nothing has changed. I still get my notice from the city water department how much I owe, and I just pay my bill. People that normally would pay, I guess, online, my understanding is that's not changing either. So I really don't know why they're creating the portal and changing everything. Does anybody happen to know? Okay.
Well, the only thing it seemed to me that they were making it easier for people with multiple accounts, which would be landlords, I reckon.
Right.
It's gonna be easier for them. That's what I perceived.
Yeah, because I don't see where anything else is changing.
Yeah.
You all probably got this, I got this in the mail today. Everybody got this?
Yeah.
So for the time being, you can disregard this. My advice is just pay water bill like you normally do. So that's my two presentations for tonight. I'll also just, we are recording, right? Yeah, we are recording. You let David in, good. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to talk about? Anything you'd like to talk about, including North Hills?
I have a topic. Maybe your microphone is on. That's why you have that.
No, I'm not sure what's. Yeah, but if they do that, the owl won't get it.
Oh.
I have to suffer with the echo.
It's not me.
What's your question query?
Okay.
Everybody know Chad?
Part-time receptionist. Maybe it was my microphone. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it would be yours.
Sorry. So I have a interesting point. Because my wife and I, we like to drive around and go to little places and stuff. And we're noticing now, even like the tower up at North Hills, you park in their short-term parking. There's this process of when you get your phone out and register your car and do all those things, even when you're in a short-term parking spot. And we went to a restaurant at the little Giorgio's Epicurean. It's one of the little dock places right off of Whitaker Mill. And we park, we go inside, we're having a nice time, and we're gonna go have dinner in their little sushi restaurant. And the hostess says, oh, well, here, scan this thing. And I thought, well, so my wife and I were kind of dorks when we go out to dinner. Sometimes we leave our phones at home so we can just not be plugged in. And it was the same thing where you have to have a phone, you have to register your car, you have to sign up on an app. And it seems, and there's no unison. So it's like every little garage or every little parking spot has its own little app that we're to download to register. Even if the business can reimburse the parking, or even if it's free parking, you still have to be registered. Is anyone else discovering that or have a thought on that? Because I find it to be a quite burdensome experience. And I kind of worry a little bit if you wanted to go somewhere and disconnect, you're not going to be allowed to because your car may be vulnerable to a ticket, but then you can't pay for it any other way other than the phone. So I don't know if anyone has any inside perspective on that or not, but I'm well, we left because we could have, I was like, well, okay, well, I'm out here, then we can't do anything about it. Sure, the money thing, I understand that part of it almost, but you can't even pay them unless you have a phone. So I'm not even sure if it's necessarily just money motivated, because to me, that's like a big hurdle. And I don't know.
If you don't pay them, they'll either ticket it or tow it. Then you're gonna find a phone.
Yeah. I know that initially there were a lot of complaints with the garage right here in North Hills East. People were getting tickets until they instituted some way of recognizing the car. So then they know that you're parked within that garage. Otherwise they were, if you weren't a resident, you were possibly getting a ticket for parking in their garage. And that's
The
gonna be the
residential
constant,
side makes
and that's gonna be
sense.
the constant struggle, especially with the expansion in North Hills, where they have all these extra garages for all the residences in the office buildings to differentiate an employee or a worker from just a visitor to allow you to park. So I'm hoping they come up with a common approach, like you were saying, one common app for the city. They have one for downtown. But it'd be nice if everybody used the same one, and I don't know if they do or they don't. Good point,
They're different parking companies.
yeah. And having been towed a few times, it's no fun.
Well, I guess the big thing with the Whitaker Mills site, the sign wasn't like right in your face when you came in. You must register your vehicle to park here. As a matter of fact, on one side, it looks like it's parking for the shops and restaurants. And then there's overflow parking, and you see the little signs on that side, but it's very deceiving. To me, I didn't understand the purpose
Yeah.
behind it, and then what do you do if you don't have your phone? Are you able to appeal it? Are you able to say, hey, well, look, I went to dinner, we didn't take our phone.
Yeah.
There's no guy to pay, there's no pay station. I know downtown Moore Square, they still have the pay station where you can put your
Yeah.
license plate in, you pay your $5 or whatever, and then you get a little ticket, you put in your window when it's done.
Yeah.
This seems to be different.
Good point. I think everybody's gonna have their own little thing. You know, everybody is into these, here's the man. Everybody's into putting up their own codes. You know, just like Chick-fil-A, you put up your thing of Chick-fil-A into their code, and you go right to their website, that's how you confirm your order. And I think every business is gonna do that, have that one personalized right to their business. And you're right, if you don't have a phone, tough luck.
Yeah, I guess.
Don't order mobile.
I guess it just kind of seems weird to me that the city would buy into that. And the
That's
city would
private
have
property.
multiple
Private
vendors.
Property.
Well, it's a city-owned lot though, like the parking is owned by the city. So the third party is the private entity.
Yes.
And so, and I've seen some horror stories with other towns where private entities take over the meters and then it becomes an absolute wreck. Because it truly does strip parking away from citizens and residents that want to go here or go there. So just kind of, maybe it's one of those private
Yeah.
public partnerships.
I
that-
think like Pam said,
They
there's
talk
so many
about-
different parking associations that they're all on their own.
Yeah, they're all competing for the space.
Yeah.
That if there is parking space available,
Mhm.
one or two of it, or they're all competing to grab that space and then charge. So they're making money, but they're paying the city to basically give them a little bit of money for their space, but then they're running all of this through app. So yeah, they're making money.
Huh.
City's making money, they're making money. Welcome to America.
Let's see.
It is the way of the future. It's something that you have to carry your phone.
I'm not gonna.
Okay. I see Het Patel is here to further provide the details about the northern BRT route. Thank you, Het. We're getting a little concerned, but you were actually on time. There's a few other people missing. Do you want to do a presentation or? Okay. We'll chat a little bit.
Yeah, USB or.
I do USB, right there, yeah, USB is right there, just kind of, a little slides down a little bit. Let's load up here and just.
And your new title is Assistant Director of Transportation, is that correct?
That is correct.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah, I sent you an email as I was leaving the last public engagement meeting that I was just at on the Southern West Rapid Transit Corridor, and I was like, I'm running late. But it looks like, did you not have the RPD update yet?
No,
Okay.
they didn't show.
Okay.
Nobody else showed except you. Thank you.
the PowerPoint.
PowerPoint, PDF, either one, whichever one you
Then
can
you have
share
to
more
share it,
easily.
Yeah.
They're both the same.
I have to remember how to do this every time.
And I actually have a clicker that I can.
That's a free button.
Thank you. The one that says share.
So professional here.
Did you copy that over into your documents? Is that what you did?
I did.
Okay, I might just plug in my clickers, I can move around.
Thing is a subscription.
That makes sense. So I also had the PDF, that was easier.
I think you're live.
I think we're good.
All yours, Ed.
Yeah.
Your Microsoft, Ed. Okay.
Here we go, cool. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Het Patel. I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation. I lead our transit division. For the past 6.5 years, I've been managing the bus rapid transit projects and the program. So I'll be providing a quick update on the Northern Bus Rapid Transit Corridor, where we're at now from a project perspective and what the next steps are for the Northern Corridor. The agenda, we do like to always start our presentations with the entire program of bus rapid transit projects. So the Northern Corridor is one of 4 bus rapid transit corridors that are planned in the Wake County plan, and kind of give you a quick overview of the entire program before we get into the project itself. In terms of the program, if you've not heard of the 2016 Wake Transit Plan, again, we also like to start with that as the precursor to where we are. So in 2016, the Wake County voters approved a half-cent sales tax that was identified to go towards transit enhancements and improvements. And that identified 4 big moves. Providing frequent, reliable urban mobility is one of those moves, connecting the region, connecting all Wake County communities, and enhancing access to transit. Bus rapid transit really falls within providing frequent, reliable urban mobility. That's the move that it really falls within. In terms of the actual project itself, what we're trying to do is identify some additional amenities and improvements that can be made to the existing infrastructure to make transit more efficient. So we're trying to add dedicated bus lanes where there is right of way or where there's some constraints to actually get buses in and out of congested corridors more efficiently, to get them to be more reliable from a service perspective and get people from point A to point B more on time and on performance. We're adding enhanced stations. So these stations are slightly larger than your regular bus shelter. They do provide a lot more amenities, a better waiting area, more information about when the next bus is going to arrive. These stations are also level boarding. So when the bus pulls up to the platform, the level of the platform and the bus is the same, so that you just walk on instead of having to take a step up onto the bus. We have specialized vehicles, so these are going to be 60-foot articulated buses. Think of an accordion joint that connects 2 buses together. That makes it allow us to have more capacity on the vehicle, as well as allows us to have bicycles that can go inside of the vehicle instead of having to put them in the front, which is kind of a barrier sometimes for people that are using bicycles on the transit vehicles. It will have signal priority at signalized intersections. Again, this is to help with the speed and reliability of the service. So the buses can talk to the traffic signal, ask for a early transit phase to allow for the bus to get through that signal faster, or if they're traveling and it's already a green light, it could actually ask for the light to stay green for an additional 30 seconds so that it can get through that congested intersection on time. We will have more span of service. So right now our buses run from 5 a.m. to midnight on weekdays and 6 a.m. on weekends. But with bus rapid transit, we're actually adding an additional hour in each time frame. So we're going to go from 4 a.m. to midnight on weekdays and 5:30 a.m. to midnight on weekends. And we're going to have more frequent service. Again, providing frequent, reliable urban mobility can only happen if you increase the number of buses running and actually decrease the time between the buses. And so during peak hours, the buses will run every 10 minutes on some of these corridors that have been identified that will provide service every 10 minutes. And then it'll match the high frequency network, which right now operates at about 15 to 20 minutes during the midnight, during the late evening hours and the early morning hours. We would have off-board fare collection, again, to make that more convenient for people to get on and off the bus faster. You buy your fare before you actually get on the bus, and that way you're not having to do that when you're boarding the bus. I already mentioned that there's more than one corridor. New Bern Avenue is our most advanced. That's the eastern corridor coming out of downtown Raleigh. We're looking to begin construction probably by the end of this month, early next month, for New Bern Avenue, starting in downtown and then going outwards towards Wake Med. Southern corridor is the next most advanced. I'm just coming from a public engagement meeting, public open house down on the Peach Road Cultural Center for the Southern Bus Rapid Transit Corridor. We're at 30% design. So today we shared that with the public that is along the Southern Corridor to review those designs, what that means from a dedicated bus lanes perspective, where the stations are, how would you be able to interact with that service. Western Corridor is a little bit behind that. We're gonna be at the 30% design milestone on the Western Corridor in early part of 2026. So probably spring, March, April timeframe. And then again, I'm here today specifically for the Northern Corridor because the city of Raleigh is doing a planning study to identify a route to connect downtown Raleigh to Midtown Raleigh and a route that would connect downtown Raleigh to Triangle Town Center. So I want to be clear that we're not picking one or the other. This is going to transform into 2 corridors. So total, we're going to have 5 bus rapid transit corridors that the city of Raleigh is trying to advance. We are looking at which one may be more competitive from a federal funding perspective. So far, the New Bern Avenue corridor, the Southern corridor, and the Western corridor have all followed a similar process to request federal funding to move forward in design construction phases of the project. New Bern and Southern have been successful in getting federal funding. The Western corridor is still waiting to get federal funding for the project. So the Northern corridor would probably follow a similar suit, as long as we think that it can have some federal competitiveness to get federal funding for the corridor. As I mentioned, again, it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be 2 corridors. We're currently in the detailed screening of alternatives phase, and the timeline on that is a little bit outdated. But we started that in the spring of 2025. We're still doing that. We did public engagement in fall of 2025. So in October of 2025, we actually had 2 open houses for the Northern Bus Rapid Transit Corridor, one at the 5 Point Center of Active Adults, and then the other at the Sorchoma Arts Center. And so we've done some public engagement, and we're looking to continue to finish the detailed screening of the remaining alternatives before we get to a preferred alternative that we would recommend to council. So that will come in the spring of 2026. We're trying to get some final detailed screening done with our consultant team, summarize the engagement results from October of 2025. So that's not completed yet. But once we have that, we will be sharing that with the general public as well as council to try to get a final determination. This is from our previous survey that we had done during the initial screening. So we asked people within these 2 corridors, what areas are you really trying to connect to with transit? And so some of the more popular destinations we got in the Midtown area were along the Wake Forest Road, Midtown East Shopping Center, Duke, Raleigh Hospital, Eastgate Shopping Center, and Crab Chicory Trails. That was 56%. And then along the Midtown corridor again, connections along Atlantic Avenue to Raleigh Ironworks, Wake Med Operations Center was highlighted there. And then along 6 Forks is the Midtown East Shopping Center. So those are the top 3 responses there. On the Triangle Town Center side, again, Atlantic Avenue jumped out, as well as the Capitol Boulevard destinations and some bikeways and greenways that are further north in the segment. Some of the other questions we asked during the last survey were how are people actually traveling within these two corridors? So from a highlight perspective, within the Triangle Town Center area, we have a lot more travel that's focused in work and home travel. Whereas the Midtown corridor, there's a lot more other travel happening. And so when you think about transit, a lot of times the home and work destinations are probably higher transit destinations than the other travel. And so that's where the graphic on the right shows that the population that responded to the survey in the Triangle Town Center corridor relied more heavily on transit than the Midtown corridor. So that's just important to know in terms of the feedback that we're getting for who is actually riding the services, the existing services within the Triangle Town Center corridor and the Midtown corridor. So I mentioned that the ultimate goal of the study is to come to one final preferred route alignment or alternative. And so right now we have two alignments that we're looking at for each corridor. The Midtown Raleigh one, it is coming out of downtown Capitol. Using alignment 5, you would be following Wake Forest Road up to St. Albans. Using alignment 1, you would be following Atlantic Avenue up to Six Forks Road. And then ultimately, as we're doing the detailed screening, we're trying to see if there's benefits of ridership that potentially has a hybrid alignment for that Midtown section, which could be using both Atlantic Avenue, Wake Forest Road, and St. Albans to make that connection instead of using Six Forks Road altogether. And then for the Triangle Town Center alignment, it's pretty much more straightforward. It's Capitol Boulevard all the way up to Triangle Town Center, or Atlantic Avenue to New Hope Church Road, then up to Capitol Boulevard. And one thing I do want to highlight for the Triangle Town Center option, alignment 3, which mirrors our Route 1 in our existing service, is actually a route that we moved to 10-minute frequencies now, riding existing buses. And we're actually using our articulated buses on Route 1 now, because Route 1 has high ridership and a capacity need for us to actually put that bus out on that service. And so that route has, as of October of this year, gone into 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, those buses are running on Capitol Boulevard. And so from a federal competitiveness perspective as well, there's also some benefits of existing ridership that will always be looked at favorably for a Federal Transit Administration project, because then you're continuing that support of existing ridership and growth. And that is my last slide, so I'm happy to answer questions.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was wondering, you have St. Albans on there and Six Forks.
Yeah.
Did you consider like any widening when you were looking into this? I mean, any future projects or projects disappearing?
So yes, we're aware of the Six Forks Roads project that is further north of Midtown, and kind of the decision the council had to make there. As part of this project, we aren't necessarily looking at full widening, but we are looking at strategic areas where we could widen to right turn lanes or a bus pull out to get buses in and out of traffic, to have those stations that may make the most sense, and then get the bus back into traffic. So we look at where there are some constraints, whether there is a lot more traffic on the corridor, where we can't have dedicated bus lanes because it is a State Department of Transportation corridor and we don't have enough room to navigate fitting a dedicated bus lane in that segment. Then we would be looking to do some strategic bus pullouts, buses communicating with traffic signals to get through those congested intersections.
So do you have a map of where these pullouts would be?
So that would be the next phase of the project. So first, once we've identified the preferred alternative, what we would do is advance the project into preliminary design and engineering. And that's when we start to look at really where more of those constraints are, where there's some opportunities to get the bus pullouts and the bus stops. Right now, as you can see on these maps, we don't actually have bus stops identified.
Yeah.
So we do have intersections identified to do our ridership modeling work to really see where existing stops have some high ridership, where the existing employment and population density warrants some level of transit investment that could potentially benefit from that service. But so that would be the next phase of the project. Once we've identified a route, we would look at that more closely to identify where the stops would go, where we could fit some dedicated bus lanes, and if we can't fit that, where we do pullouts and queue jumps.
And then you go back out to the public with that and show them alternatives or
Yes.
different, bus pullouts?
Yes, we would do that. We would show some design alternatives, how that's providing access to the side streets, how that may be providing access to the actual commercial properties or plazas, how pedestrian crossings are envisioned. If there's parts of the project that's gonna add some additional bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, that would be included in those designs as well.
And so, did you look any, like an analysis for saying, how many, like vehicles are you taking off the network if you were to provide these bus rapid transit routes? I mean,
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The challenge with that is their cultural shift takes time, and we have ridership modeling that can tell you how much ridership we anticipate to grow. But the theory in urban planning says if you take some people off the road and move them to the buses, there may be an opportunity for someone that wasn't taking vehicular mode of transportation to now say, hey, the roads have opened up, I'm gonna drive now because that's more convenient. So it isn't a one-to-one trade-off. Certainly what we're trying to do is provide more options and opportunities for our existing riders to benefit by increasing the frequencies, but someone else to decide if they wanted to do that, that'd be an option for them.
thank you.
Has there been any thought to doing something like a elevated or subterranean bus or rail route? I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't have any more room road-wise.
Yeah.
Up or down.
So I certainly think that the Capitol Boulevard, if you look at the city's Capitol North corridor study, that does look at a little bit of that more of an expressway setting with some elevated grade crossings where you actually have the transit stop and you have buses operating within an expressway system. You have some local access on the side streets and going up and down to do that. Certainly that's a lot more expensive or a large capital investment project that would impact like the federal competitiveness of the project. So we're trying to balance those overall capital costs of the project and trying to see what we can do with federal funding as well as local funding that's been identified so far.
And that's my question. Federal funding.
Yeah.
What is the main driver to being able to qualify for that if Midtown hasn't currently been funded?
Yeah, so both Midtown and the Triangle Town Center options, we have not submitted to Federal Transit Administration for funding yet. We do have a really good local funding source. As I mentioned, the initial 2016 Wave Transit Plan that's actually being used to do this study itself is what's going to fund the preliminary design and engineering and to help us get to a more understanding of the large capital costs for this project to see if it's going to be cost effective to federally fund the project. Key drivers to federal funding are existing ridership. How are you benefiting the mobility along the corridor with the existing ridership? Are there, in previous administration, there was some benefits for environmental benefits or reducing carbon cost of emissions and some overall changing of if you're using a diesel fleet to compress natural gas or an electric fleet, there were some benefits that you were getting out of that. It also looks at surrounding land use policies and transit-oriented development and how the growth of the entire corridor is envisioned in the future to see if there's going to be more ridership that comes to the project after it's developed. It does look at those dedicated bus lanes and overall travel time savings. How much needle are you moving about making transit a more competitive route for that same service as a vehicle or traffic would be in that corridor. So there's a multitude of factors. It looks at funding as well. If you have a good local funding source, then the Federal Transit Administration is more favorably looking at your project because they know that you can move forward with construction if it's getting federal funding as well. So there's multiple components of it. Ultimately, if we go down the process and see that the Midtown corridor does not have a lot of ridership or does not have federal competitiveness, we still certainly have the local funding source to say, hey, we would still like to make these improvements to the Midtown corridor, still have the larger stations, still have level boarding stations, but we may not be able to fit dedicated bus lanes throughout the entire corridor, which isn't likely or practical.
I think we're in the same boat probably as the Western Boulevard routing. Capitol Boulevard makes sense because you already have multiple lanes. Going south, the same thing, it already has multiple lanes, but when you go western corridor, you run into that same problem of restrictive roads that you're gonna try to get onto. And the same thing when you try to come north, unless you come up Capitol Boulevard. So I'm making the assumption that none of these other corridors will look like New Bern Avenue. It's gonna be the model, the Cadillac. But at the same time, I know that for the northern part, there's a state project to either widen or change Wake Forest Road, which would make that a little more amenable to further bus routing. And I think the same thing is gonna happen perhaps with Six Forks, since the state's now putting another lane to dump cars on heading north.
Okay.
So I would think it should be some coordination with the state to perhaps get state funding.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly looking at other opportunities from a strategic funding perspective, as well as partnering with the State Department of Transportation. If there are projects that they're working on where we could have some benefits of, transit infrastructure that could be incorporated at the same time. I'd have to look at exactly what the Wake Forest Road project is, and I have to see
Not
what
sure
their
where that
limits
one's
are. Yeah,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I think Mecklenburg just voted this year to raise their sales tax
Yeah.
by a full percent.
Yeah.
So, and we voted in 2016 to raise a little bit to find out what we're gonna do
Yeah.
with our transit stuff.
Yeah.
So as this becomes more of like, okay, this is a plan, what are the odds that we're gonna face, something at the voting box that says, hey, we've sold you on this idea, now we need more of your money? What are the odds of that happening? Honestly.
so that wouldn't be a city decision. Again, I think that would be probably county level decision, because that's a regional conversation, and that was Mecklenburg County's situation as well. It wasn't Charlotte. It's the growing metro region that has a need to look at, and their additional sales tax or additional percent is not just transit, it's actually transportation led. So there are roadway projects, bicycle pedestrian projects, and transit is getting a share of that. So I think that is a larger metropolitan area conversation that on our end would probably start with the capital area metropolitan planning organization, and their vision for where some of the constraints are in the long range comprehensive transportation plan, the 2050 MTP. If we're seeing a lot of areas where the State Department of Transportation funds are not doing enough to local regional roads or collector roads that are within this area, there may be a need to identify additional funding to do transportation projects, not just transit projects. And so, I think that would go on a ballot. It probably is a few years away if that were to happen. But certainly, I'd say on the transit side, one of the benefits we've had is the half-cent sales tax on the Wake Transit Plan is bringing in a pretty significant amount of funding yearly. That is meeting a lot of our transit growth needs and improvements.
What is your timeline? If, once you make your decision in terms of routing next year, what is the long-term routing?
So this will still take a few years to develop, just based on lessons learned from the New Bern Avenue corridor, Southern corridor, and Western corridor, which are ahead in design and engineering. The New Bern Avenue corridor started design in 2019, and we're now getting to construction in 2025. Especially if it follows a federal process timeline, that in itself is about a 2.5 year process to get federal funding, show them that you're ready to start construction and move into that next phase of the project. If it's locally funded, there may be room to do some things more expeditedly, but that also requires us to coordinate with the local Wake Transit Plan to try to move some money around, because right now the Northern Corridor funding is identified out in the out years from 2033 to 2035. So that would need some shifts to happen there for this to move any faster. And again, right now, I'd say from a sequencing perspective, the other three corridors are further along. So that's kind of where our focus is to get to construction. But the Northern Corridor would be right after that.
That's one. What's the volume of individuals that are using the bus system now?
Yeah. So right now we have about 7.5 million annually riding the buses. That's an annual number. Most of our routes will range from about 2,500 to 5,000 daily riders. And so Capitol Boulevard's on the higher end of that.
Sure.
And one other question, I'm assuming that you have to stage the buses, in other words, you can't have one bus kind of running the whole corridor, so you need at least two probably to have one, yeah, multiple. And one of the hot topics, of course, for this area is there's supposed to be a bus transfer station, that's the way it was worded. Originally it was gonna be within the North Hills main area, it got kicked out of there, and I don't know where they're gonna put it, but within all your planning for the corridors, are you looking at perhaps combinations of park and ride with bus stations?
Yeah, so we are certainly looking at strategic locations for park and rides as well as transit centers, transfer facilities, mobility hubs that kind of bring, if there's more than one route coming into an area, it does benefit us to have a little bit more space, to have a bus layover, have more facilities where a driver can probably take a break to go to the bathroom, things like that. So at some of the end of the line routes on the bus rapid transit side of things, we do want to have some of those facilities. So we're planning for one at the Triangle Town Center, Termini. Real estate is really challenging right now, as you guys may imagine. So it is a strategic process to identify a property as well as start to plan ahead before some of these services come online to try to get something built from an infrastructure perspective before these services.
Yeah, I sent you the picture of Kane's future road, hopefully you can work with them.
Yeah. So I was asking a clarifying question,
Yeah.
7.5 million per year.
Per year, annual ridership.
Okay, there's 500,000 people living just in Raleigh, like, I mean, that's a lot of.
Yes, I mean, that's, we count that as if one person rides daily, it's not just individual ridership, it's the number of people that are getting on and off the bus. So one person riding multiple times a day gets counted multiple times.
So it's like start, stop,
Yeah.
that's the measurement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you can dent the 30,000-40,000 cars going up and down 6 forks, get some of them to a bus, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Show your share.
It's not online.
Any other questions? Since we don't have light rail, like Charlotte, Mecklenburg, is that figuring in somewhere that there might be the possibility of light rail to kind of maybe bump you guys down a little bit?
At the moment, the regional Wake Transit Plan updates that have happened in the more recent years have continued to invest in bus rapid transit or identify some additional bus rapid transit corridors that would be studied. So right now there's an extension that's being studied on the western corridor going from Cary to RTP, on the southern corridor going from Garner to Clayton, Johnson County. There's certainly the next generation of bus rapid transit corridors that are also in that plan that highlight a north-south corridor in the town of Cary along Harrison and Kildare Farm, as well as a I-40 BRT that would connect from Blue Ridge up through 40, and then potentially a Glenwood corridor that would connect out to Durham and Durham. Durham County also has bus rapid transit plans as part of their transit plan, and they're working on some BRT corridors as well.
So is there, I guess part of that is either include Research Triangle Park and perhaps include the airport?
Yeah, so the extension, the 40 BRT does have a potential stop at the airport. The extension from Cary to RTP has some Research Triangle Park connections. Some of these other corridors that I mentioned are a vision plan, so that's still something that would have to go through a similar planning study that we're doing on the northern BRT corridor, where you really take a look at what the roadway segments are that could provide you a connection from that point A to point B. What are some of the constraints? Can bus rapid transit style service actually operate on that corridor?
One last question, I promise. To the arena?
Yeah.
Whatever the name of it is now, Lenovo now, right? Is it Lenovo?
Lenovo Center.
Do we have transit there? And I just have missed it all these years, or?
So we have some transit in the outer lying areas. We did have a route that was connecting along Edwards Mill that wasn't very successful for a while, just because there's not a whole lot of development there now. So some of our transit connections sort of have to follow development. It's like the chicken and the egg situation.
Sure.
If there is not a whole lot there and we put a route out there, even if it's running at 15-minute services, we don't get good ridership. But if there are some things where people are trying to go from point A to point B and we put a 15-minute service out there, then that will benefit. So I think there may be certainly some things that we do from a response perspective as development happens that may be more appropriate or helpful in that situation.
Okay, so I lied. So follow up.
Yeah.
Could it be designed so where like Midtown had the Canes route or the whatever route, you know, that ran seasonally, not on a 15-minute thing, not on a time, but like truly a seasonal experience. Yeah, I think you'd take a lot of inebriated drivers off the road. Right, seriously, I think
That's
you
fair.
would.
There's certainly some
I
examples.
mean, that's year round, because they're building
Well, concerts,
concerts.
true, you could have the entertainment route.
Right.
That only works seasonally based on those events or something, I mean, is that something that the city can even consider, or does it have to be?
It can be looked at. There are some limitations with federal funding where we can't compete with charter style services, but if you have a specific program that's identified as a route service, like we do the state fair, right, all the time. So there are certain special routes that we can develop in addition. You just have to look at the market, you have to look at, and I'm speaking from a conversation I've had with someone that had helped plan a Durham Bulls service in the Durham side of things. Sometimes you can lay out a well-played plan, but depending on how people are actually trying to leave those events, there's not right timings for those routes, it's not gonna be successful. So it is a little bit of trial and error to see what the need actually is to connect those services and how frequently does that need to run. Is it just a few hours before the service and a few hours after the service, kind of experimenting with that. But there are programs that have done that. And we can look at something like that once those activity centers become large enough to where it warrants that O&D market analysis that says, hey, this is what people are really doing from point A to point B and trying to get there.
Okay.
We're optimistic.
Thank you.
They don't have there is no express service anymore from North Hills to downtown. We used to have the nonstop bus service.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I know we have Route 8 and 6 that comes up this way, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's an express.
And you were telling me that the park and ride that used to be in the Triangle shopping area, that you're not getting the cooperation from them.
For the state fair service, we are still looking at that property at the Triangle Town Center to try to do a transit center in the future. But for the state fair service, some of the challenges we go through with property owners is some of those services are short-term and they're, you know, for 2 weeks. You have a lot of buses running in the parking lot. You have a lot of people potentially not necessarily using that space well, and the property owners don't necessarily leave feeling great about it, even though they're getting a contractual agreement of payments, but sometimes the property owners don't want us to come back if that service doesn't do well for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go, of course.
Shira and Ed, I guess.
Do you have anything you want to hear? Person? Should I roll the presentation?
Oh,
Yeah, thumb driver.
Before I start on my actual presentation, I will add a little bit to what he was just saying. My name is Ed Buckin, I'm the Assistant Director with Raleigh Water. And about a month ago, we just cut the ribbon, so to speak, on a new bioenergy project at our wastewater plant where we switched our treatment process. So it used to be aerobic, it's now anaerobic.
I'm trying to see.
And if you know what an Instapot is, we have giant Instapots there that compress the biosolids into a very small volume, which is a big issue for us. But a byproduct of that is biogas. We capture it on site and we clean it, and then we inject it into a gas transmission line that happened to go through our property there. And that is now fueling all the city Go Raleigh buses with RNG. So there's no diesels and everything. And so I think it was originally 70, I think it's 75, and it's going to be 90 soon. So that's the good news before I get ready to tell you some bad news. You need my machine?
No, we got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Get this.
Does anybody remember the old slide projector? That's what we need.
Going
Vacation slide.
this stuff out.
But you don't want to do overheads?
Yeah, my mom's a teacher, so yes, I know what overheads
Okay,
Okay,
just tell me when you want to change the slide.
all right. So, as hopefully most of you, not all of you do, Raleigh Water, we are switching up our online payment portal. In modern technology, parlance, our old portal was Methuselah. It was very, very old, broken, had the old logo on it, had no functionality really. So we've been working for years now to create a new portal, and I'll talk about what that benefit really is. And so I was here today really to talk about how awesome this was. And I'll show you why that's not the case right now. We even got a picture, this is on one of our advertisements. We've sent out texts and emails, postcards, of course, next door, all the different social media platforms. And, you know, we have someone that seems to be very happy to be paying the bills. I don't know how realistic that is, but all right, next slide.
They don't live in Lake.
So this is what hopefully the new portal will eventually look like. Actually, it sort of does look like that. So we launched it, they called it go live this past Wednesday. And we've done all the pre-production testing and everything is working. But as it launched, we started to run into some issues. And next slide.
Just about a half a dozen that were successfully in registering. Want that one, do you?
Well, you might have, well, anyway. Go back to that top one. I guess
So back to this one.
the one above it, it doesn't matter. They say that the perfect slide has no words on it, so. So the main reason why we're doing it is to increase functionality and also for security reasons. Earlier this past year, the town of Apex had a security breach in their utility database, and they got ransomed, and they lost a ton of information. And so people had to go in, recreate it, and also they probably lost payment information. So it was a huge headache. And so recognizing that and trying to avoid that here in Raleigh, we wanted to go to a cloud solution. And so as you can tell with my gray hair, cloud solution technology is a new thing for me. So what it means though is you don't have on-site servers, and they are very vulnerable. So you're using a third party to host all your data and information and payment data as well. So that's why we wanted to do it. So we got the portal done in production. We got the payment side of things figured out as we thought. Now for the unfortunate slide. And so this is what's up there now. If you go to our slide, our website, the new portal, technically, if you just X out of that box, you can actually go in there and try to create an account. I don't want you to do that right now. Please don't.
Too late.
Well, so that's the problem with having a pretty effective communication effort. The email we sent out had a 77% open rate, which is the highest I've ever heard of. So people were paying attention. So they did. A lot of people did try to go on to the web portal, and based on the numbers that we saw today, about 30,000 people tried. About 15,000 of them were successful. What seems to be happening in most cases is because it's a two-step verification, security verification. You have an email and usually a text. One or both never come, or they come 5 hours later or something like that.
Day later.
And or day later. And some people get frustrated, and then they, like one person tried 14 times. And then eventually they got 14 security codes all at once. So we have worked all weekend with the vendor that if this is a vendor server issue, it seems like we sent, I guess they weren't expecting, I don't know how they weren't expecting the onslaught, the number of people coming all at once. You know, they knew we have 220,000 customers, or accounts, I should say. And so of course, when, you know, in retrospect, if there had been a way to like send out like geo-fenced information, like I would send it to a zip code or a census block and say, all right, your turn, you go register. then it's your turn. That probably would have worked. But, so they, as of today, we got off the meeting at 5 and the vendor thinks they have this solved. There's a lot of tech stuff I'm not gonna bother you with, but, it has a lot to do with their reputation. So oddly enough, what seems to be happening is a lot of the major email providers like Google and Yahoo, they have internal systems to try to prevent spam. Mine does not do a very good job of that, but apparently some of them do. And so when they start seeing what they'll somehow notice is we'll get an email from RaleighNC.gov. And that to me, I would like to think you're what they call whitelisted. That should be an automatic, like that's a government thing, come on in. But it's not. And what they do look at is Jiminy Cricket. They just, whoever this RaleighNC.gov is, just sent out 10,000 emails. That seems like a spam. Because it all comes, you know, so they didn't, a lot of email providers didn't differentiate that. So they're stuck and there's this whole gray listing. There's a process you have to go through to kind of hopefully get your reputation up. This is all new to me. I manage a water plant and water distribution. I'm moonlighting on this call center stuff, so I apologize for not knowing it as well as I should. But so right now we put that up. As I speak, we're getting a lot of our own employees to sign up now, tonight, to test it. So because the vendor says they have it fixed, so we're looking at my phone to see if it's going to work okay. I registered and mine worked fine, and I was all excited. Gonna pop some champagne, but so in fact, I had an update for the city council on this past Friday, and I had kind of painted a nice positive picture. You know, I had a few hiccups, but and then the last minute we get a call, and I had to pull that off the update list. So we have that up there right now. Part as a way to not have you go do this and get frustrated right now. So we'll take it down once we feel like it's more stable. We do have 15,000, I told you 30,000 got tried, half of them got in. So the other half are in limbo. We're going to try to communicate directly with them to tell them if we're happy with what we're seeing tonight, go try again. But we're going to probably do it in batches. We're not going to just tell all 15,000 to do it. Even though the vendor says it's not a problem anymore, it's been the most awkward, frustrating professional experience of my life in these meetings with these people. It's if you've ever seen The Office, it's like that. It's bizarre. Never seen something like. Okay, next slide. So, of course, I'd say about half of our customers have never used the online option. So, so it doesn't affect them at all. But for those who do use it, the golden one that we always like is auto pay. We had about 5,000 people show up or be able to sign up for that. But here's the other part of it is because we're opening up a whole new cloud and everything's different, people have to go in and recreate their account. So they may have been on our old portal and we have tried desperately to get that all ported over. As the slide before said, nothing is ever easy when it comes to billing. And part of this is because I was just thinking about it, you know, globally. You know, my joke is I always wish I could run a utility in 1978. It's so much easier. I didn't have to have any of this. We wouldn't have this. We'd have a slide projector. Is that we have so many different ways to pay. What's not even on there, you can pay with Venmo, PayPal. We're working on Apple Pay. You can pay in person. You can mail it in. You can use a check. You can use bank pay. You can use auto draft from a checking account. You can use auto draft from a credit card or a debit card or an ACH. So there's a myriad of different ways to pay. It's all very complicated to get it all to work. So if you were an auto pay customer, you will have to re-enroll. We weren't able, the only way to have brought in the payment data is to hand key it in. And we're not going to have people handling, we're not even certified to handle that type of data for good reason. And bank bill pay is something that I didn't know about. Today, well, not today, so I learned about it last week. That is when you authorize your bank to pay your bill. Doesn't affect those folks. That still is the same, and nothing needs to change there, but I didn't know that existed, so there you go. And then if you are just gonna use a credit card or something like that, you will still have to re-register and put that credit card information. So we thought the main problem was going to get people to re-register, to recreate their account, and that's, you know, not a great message, but the main issue now is we've asked a bunch of people to do that, they have done it, and it didn't work. So we're gonna have to hopefully have that resolved, maybe tonight, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. All right, next one. So we're also doing a lot of in-person events, like at community centers. We had one, or we're supposed to have one actually today at Chance Park. We canceled that one. We had one last week, but it seemed to be working better. So we're having them over the next several weeks and months. So if there's folks who don't know how to do it online, it's pretty simple. I've done it, but we're happy to help in person once the daggone thing is working. And our call center can help you. We have a call center, but I'll say, please don't call us right now. It's like last week we averaged 700 calls a day, and it was at 2,500 last I looked. And the 40 minutes wait down. So normally it's a couple minutes. So yeah, and that's died down, but it's still a lot of high traffic on that. We are not disconnecting anybody for non-payment. That's going to be the case probably for several months while we get this sorted out. So no one's going to lose water service. All the late fees have been waived. So that's where we're at. All right.
I can finally get to grow some green grass. There's a dream. I'm just kidding. So I do have a question. I'm one of the 15,000 that I think got in successfully and created my payment method. Do I understand? Am I okay, or do I have to do it again?
No, you're good.
Okay.
We did briefly talk about a complete reset, and I said I was going to quit. So if we did that, so we have those folks like you that are registered, and I think after today's meeting we feel a little better about at least what the vendors tell us. We'll see, but so no, you don't have to do anything. I hope not. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question that has nothing to do with this? Why do I send my water bill payment to Charlotte?
Oh, that's a good one.
It just always bugs me.
So we, like everything the city does, we put it out to bid. And the people that handle opening up letters and processing checks, they just happen to be in Charlotte. They had the lowest number. And because it's going through, and that's something else I would say, if you are still mailing it in, just keep in mind it takes longer for whatever reason. USPS is just slower now, so it takes a little bit longer to get there. But I want to say that is coming up for an RFQ again. It expired after a certain period of time, so we'll see. Now we've had also a string of bad luck this past year. So I'll just give you some background. There's another assistant director that would actually know all about this and manage this. He's been the interim director over at Solid Waste Services for over a year now. And I think he's going to come back, and I was joking, like, that's great timing. Now you've managed to avoid all this bad stuff and then wait for it to get fixed and come back. But what happened earlier this year when it comes to mailing checks is our print bill vendor went belly up and didn't tell. They served Cary, they served Dallas, Texas, they served all these places. North Carolina couldn't get their state refund checks out. It was they had tons of customers, and they just literally stopped working. And they were in Durham, so we literally had someone go over there and knock on the door. We couldn't get any response from them, and so it took us about a month and a half to find another vendor and make sure that they were legit and get that all sorted out. So we were not mailing bills for about 45 days. So it's been entertaining. this past year.
Excited.
Yes.
Good, bit of good news, I guess. I'm one of those people that still gets a notice from the water company, tells me how much I owe. And I do send mine in electronically.
Pleasure.
Now, yeah, that's as far as I know, at least as of yesterday, that was still functioning. So I'm hoping it continues to function that way.
Yeah, I mean, so I really need to get a little more positive that once this is fixed and running, if you do have the online portal, one of the things that we'll hopefully be able to do, I won't be managing this project, but is we have smart meters now. Back in 2010, we went from analog meters. You know, back when I started, you would have to go pop a meter lid, write the number down, you know, through all 200-some thousand accounts. And then we went to automatic reading where you can just drive by and it just reads automatically. Duke Power is the same thing. So you don't have to go in people's yards and all of that. And since then, we've now finally switched all of those over to something called smart meters, which will eventually be able to provide a lot of information about leaks. Like right now, for the most part, we don't know you have a leak until we see the bill. And then we try to alert you. But in theory, a smart meter will be like, well, that's weird. And you'll start to get alerts like that day.
Yeah.
I had that happen. I have a little rental property and I went the day the water was supposed to get cut on. I went by the next day. I was like, wait, there's no water on. And there was a little notice on the door that said we detected a leak.
Yeah, we'll turn it off.
So it's off.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like my neighbor, their hot water heaters in the crawl space of the house. And I was walking the dog, and I saw this, they have a little sump pump and it's just constantly on. It hadn't rained in 2 weeks. I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. And sure enough, hot water heater had a sprung leak. So they were relieved that I called them and said it didn't flood out the rest of their house. But in those cases, we'll normally show up and just turn the water off for you. But anyway, but the problem with it is that sometimes takes a long time for us to do that. It depends on the billing cycle, but hopefully the new portal will, it'll also be able to show you historic usage information. So you can go way back and look at when you had a 14-year-old kid like me used a ton of water. It's a 40-mile crossing. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, I have questions.
Mhm.
The first, was there a way to go paperless with the city of Raleigh?
Yeah. Mhm.
So will there be some type of mechanism to
Yep.
queue them?
Yeah, and the new
That
web
makes
portal. Yeah, the new web portal. Most people who use the web portal don't get a paper bill.
Yeah, I'm going auto pay paperless for years.
And you're a good person.
Well, we try to save a little money, which then brings me to the server concern that I have. My wife and I, our business, we went to the cloud thing 21, 22.
Mhm.
And the day that Amazon failed, right? I had an orthopedic appointment. They couldn't take payment. They almost, I thought they were gonna kick me out of a doctor's appointment because I didn't have a method to pay. So that does raise a concern for me, seeing it over the last 5 years, trying to work on the cloud where people depend on it, need it. And they want that absolute consistency because cloud-based servers are not immune
They're
to
not.
infiltrators. They're not
Absolutely
immune
not.
to hackers. They're not immune to, I think even India just got hacked for their digital ID system that they have. And so who knows where all those people's credit information, identification,
Oh,
who
no,
even
they're-
knows who has all of it.
Yep.
So I guess in the risk cost assessment, who is in charge of it? Because I kind of think that people are getting hyped up on the cloud.
Yeah.
And so, even though it costs 3 times as much, which is gonna come to us at some point, right now it might be like, yay, no problem, but we're gonna have a higher price burden and the risk of more inconsistent delivery of service. So I'm curious as to when those things come across the table, who actually says, okay, well, let's really, because, you're talking about however many people have water in Raleigh. I mean, you're talking about a good chunk of folks, so.
Yeah, so this preceded me getting involved with this, but this has been ongoing for 5 years now, probably.
That sounds about right. work from
And,
home years, that's when I started moving to the cloud. That's what
Yeah.
I think about it.
and a lot of utilities are doing it. Durham just did one. And I'm now a little more familiar with our current security protocol, which made me close my eyes and like I don't know how we didn't get in trouble with this. So that's, I think, motivated our staff to do that we were very vulnerable. You're right, the cloud is not a bulletproof thing. You can still get hacked. It's still theoretically possible. It's just harder. It's like
And there's
two-step.
a cost perspective too, because I
Yeah.
imagine you have to lease the server space now as opposed to holding the data.
So
You
one
don't
thing
have
we
to
did
lease it.
as part of this, a couple weeks ago, we did a data purge. So we did actually shut down our old system for 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
We had 18 years of records.
Sure.
And which is a hell of a lot of data just to be sitting on for no reason.
Yeah.
And the data protocol now is 3 years. So we purged a ton of data that we didn't need. So we don't have to have as much space on the cloud now. And that's our policy now moving forward. So we actually have a formal policy. One thing I learned is that a lot of governments will move pretty slowly in terms of reacting to technology and things like that. So, we should have had a data policy or a records retention policy in place 15 years ago.
Right. I know with the new web renovation the city is doing, they have the same problem. They have documents going back, I guess, like 50 years at least.
See, I used to be on Alfresco and moved to Drupal. And I was one of the web designers there. And we still find stuff that's older than me on there. So, but we've gotten rid of a lot of it. But yes, that was a big thing. We get a stale content report every week. And it's not a perfect solution. It's just better than what we have or had. And good Lord willing, we'll have a solution here this week. Even if it does work tonight, I don't think we would be, because we got to do full regression testing the rest of the week. I would think that we probably wouldn't open it back up till Monday. So that's, we're around here and knock on, but if that's that everything works perfectly. But I don't hold me to that.
So
Maybe longer.
So what should people do in the interim? It used to be you would just go to your website through the city website, figure out how much you owe, pay your bill.
Yeah, I think right now what we're suggesting to people is just call in and you can still use IVR to pay, look up your account information. You theoretically pay in person, but I wouldn't.
But the digital access is still there, right, was before, okay.
Still be mailing bills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Out of our 200-some thousand active accounts, about half of them we're still doing paper bills. So this isn't everybody. This is half of them, still a big number. But yeah, you still, and you go on our website and you can see the different payment options. But we were wanting to take, at least one initial thought was to take the whole server, the whole portal down altogether. Because like right now, theoretically, you could go in there and try again if you want. Don't do that. But the advice from the vendor is like, yeah, just keep it open, and you're just going to have to work with the people that you can't work for, and that's not a great answer. They didn't seem to. My thought was like, you're not answering the phone. We are, and there's upset people, and you're in Seattle, wherever you are, and you don't have to deal with this. So they didn't think it was a big deal. I beg to differ on that. But again, hopefully we'll get some good news tonight, and then we're going to push out more information. We have the ability to send text messages, and we don't like to use that often because people get desensitized to it. It's like an Amber Alert. Like, okay, stop it. But in this case, we want to tell people once we think we have it worked out, we're going to let you know. And this is separate communication. There's anybody in the room that tried to register and never got a confirmation code, there will be a separate communication to those folks.
It was kind of weird because the first one uses, I think, the an email confirmation. And then the second one, it says you'll get a phone confirmation, I think. And
Yeah,
that's the part that just fell apart.
Yeah, and even that I didn't particularly Still have questions about, like, what are these, what if
Yeah, it did say.
Someone did have
It said phone.
doesn't have a cell phone?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about right there. I hope.
God, didn't you use cell phone?
Listen, if you ever anyone your phone is dead and all of a sudden you're cut off from society, that's gonna suck. So like that's,
Yeah, I mean, my
and
dad,
it's a serious, I think it's a very serious movement that not just, I mean, there are countries on our planet right now that will lock you in your box if your phone has the wrong thing on it. So it's really not funny. I do have a question though, because on the list of places that they can pay their bill, Walmart is listed.
Mhm.
So the person now, we're just confused of it all. Can they go to the Walmart? Can the Walmart still tap into their data?
Yeah.
And then the last question is, out of all the payment methods you mentioned, you didn't say the word cash, but I imagine if they go to Walmart, they can give their cash money over and pay their water bill.
I would suppose, I know we take cash at our cash window, our payment window
Okay.
downtown, so I know we do it there. Another fun thing that I get to figure out is, there's no more pennies,
No more pennies.
and so,
Or there's not printing any more pennies.
right,
So your pennies now are worth a nickel.
and,
Very good thing.
I'm gonna steal that, so we're actually thinking about changing the bill so it always rounds down to a 5 or a 0.
That's true.
Just so we don't have to deal with that. But then my question was like, are we gonna get rid of nickels? Now, where do you stop? Get around,
Well, the retailers, they can adjust their prices, but then you throw on the tax.
I know, yeah. You're not getting taxed from us. Okay.
Any other questions? Any more frustration? Do electronically works.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ed.
just keep an eye out, and, again, on behalf of Raleigh Water, apologize, but, like I said, technology's fun. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see our counselors online. Maybe they were, and I didn't realize they were. I did that last month. But no counselors either. Maybe they don't want to be here. So, floor is open. Any question, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, about the leaf collection, they're going to suspend that. It's just everyone like, oh, okay. I'll
There's
become
so
a
much-
master gardener and I'll get a whole setup and do mulching and process and decompose. I mean, I don't know who has extra time to be a master gardener. I don't.
Well, just ride around Raleigh right now and look at all the leaves that are already in the street.
Yeah,
And there'll be people that will have those leaves in the street until probably February.
Yeah.
Unless you're fortunate enough to be in the beginning of the cycle, not the end of the cycle.
okay.
So I look at it as one big experiment by the city. This is a program that they decided was too costly for them. Right, couldn't buy another truck, couldn't buy a couple more people to put on the route. So they decided to go this route where they're just gonna allow you to have, first of all, everything is in place for this year. There's no change this year.
Okay.
Come next year, somehow you'll get all your leaves into the container. One, you can't get a second, or third or fourth if you pay for it. And I expect that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna see containers lined up in the
You forgot the
street.
5 free bags.
And the bags.
Yeah,
You
so-
get 5 free bags.
Yes, which are available now, by the way. You can ask the city to get your 5 free bags now.
Can you get 5 free bags every week?
Probably as often as you ask for them. I don't know, because I've never
I don't,
used the
they
bag.
said 5 free bags per household, period.
How they gonna drop off to you or?
No, you have to go get them.
Oh, okay, that's what now, you can go get them now.
They're just copping out and doing what they ought to be doing.
So when I look at it, I think it'll be a constant point of conversation, starting probably in the summer next year,
Okay.
of what to expect, how it's gonna operate.
Who has time for all that, you know?
I mean, give them that.
I'm gonna take my snow shovel that I hardly ever use and use it to sweep up my leaves, dump them in the container.
And then they said they would continually pick up like weekly
Yeah.
yard waste, but during the winter, there is no yard waste. People aren't gardening or.
Well, I have tree limbs all the time. I fill mine up every time.
I borrow a neighbor.
Or I borrow my neighbors.
You know, they're pushing none of these leaves in the gutters and stuff. But everybody I see putting the leaves out, doing just like they always have, they put them out in the gutter, keep killing the grass.
They don't run to everybody says that, you know, the leaves run down and go into the sewer system. Mine don't go anywhere, the water just channels right through
I know.
them. Cars smash them up anyway.
And then what are commercial areas supposed to do with their leaves?
Good
Because-
question, they'll probably pay somebody to come pick them up.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of people already on next door, they're advertising already,
Mhm.
hey, I have a truck to come around and sweep up your leaves, so.
I mean, they upped our taxes and.
Yep,
To change the subject, I have a question about the status of the traffic calming plans for Quail Hollow.
January's meeting, they're gonna be brave enough to come back in January.
Okay.
So as far as I know, they are still, don't ask me why, but they are still assembling all of the commentary that they got back from their community engagement to determine what their next steps are. Because I did approach them, I thought maybe they'd come tonight. But right now, the plan is to have them come back in January. To date, nothing is getting done, nothing is finalized.
You mean come back to one of these
Come back
meetings?
to our January community meeting, yes,
Okay. And we can give, and we would be able to give feedback at that
Yes.
time?
yes. But what bothered me about it the most, obviously, the parking situation.
Yeah.
But every time they do one of these bike paths, there's no connectivity.
Right.
In other words, why didn't they do it on Quail Ridge? Instead of just sending people down the middle of the street to ride their bike. So here they're gonna have a dedicated bike path
Well, you know.
Where is
the- The ultimate.
right down Valhalla Drive.
The ultimate plan is to run the greenway somewhere across the Millbrook
Yes.
Speedway.
Yes,
And connect it to the Mine Creek
Yes.
Greenway. So, I mean, but me, I mean, I'm a bike rider and personally, I like the road the way it is. There's lots of room for cars and bikes and, you know. The other thing that occurred to me, the other day is when you're, at the intersection of Millbrook and, you know, a lot of people use that as if there are two lanes, one lane to turn left and one lane to turn right. And that will no longer exist if the plan as proposed is put in place. I mean,
That's exactly right.
It'll single it
they,
out.
they haven't given it any thought what happens when you narrow down that road.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, and we're entering the season where you've got delivery trucks all over the place, and if there's only parking on one side of the street and a bike lane on the other side of the street, the
Two-way
delivery
bike
trucks, it's gonna become, the delivery trucks are gonna, make it a one-lane road.
Right, but it's a two-way bike lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm not real pleased about.
Right,
either.
that means you gotta watch every intersection, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're.
And don't run into the other bike.
One of the cardinal rules is to ride with traffic.
Yeah.
Well, that, you know, doesn't happen with a two-lane.
Yeah.
Bike.
When I used to ride, I didn't trust anybody driving a car.
Well, you still can.
Yeah, so I ride against traffic, I wanna see that car coming.
That's how I learned as a kid.
Yeah. So. I think you still have to be very brave to ride your bike. Unless you're riding on the local roads, once you get out of that, so maybe that's why there's no connectivity. They really don't want to encourage you to get out of your section, so.
I don't know whether it's an element of bravery or ignorance, but there's something involved there.
I love biking.
For you.
So that wasn't that part of the concern was that the bike lanes you would not be allowed to park, or like you could not have your Amazon person stop, or a construction person, like you couldn't
Yeah.
use it at all.
Yeah,
They're gonna actually put a physical barrier
Right.
Right?
later on.
Yeah.
You will not be able to get in there
yeah.
at
I
all.
think that's up to us as far as, I think we can stop that. I think the physical barrier part is, they're supposed to be experimenting on Industrial Drive. So if you ever have the time to ride on Industrial Drive, they're experimenting with all these different types of both speed reduction as well as these so-called barriers. But I hate the curb extension, they come too close to the intersection, you gotta go out, go into the other lane and come back. just me personally.
Has there, like, does the CAC do its own surveying?
Yeah.
Is that a
We
thing?
could. We could actually survey the neighborhood.
Because it would be a way to actually bring kind of a little more of a unified sense of, hey, you know, here are the people that are living in this immediate area. And here's the thought that we all share. Would you take this into consideration?
Yeah, it's a good point. Is there anybody here that's in favor of the Green Street project? That's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah, not the way it's proposed.
Right.
I don't think so. Like, I would think it'd be nice if they put some little stripes up to show like, hey, here's some safe riding. I just don't like the taking ownership of the curb.
Right.
For the one cyclist who visits.
Totally agree.
It just seems like it's not well measured, you know,
I
it's
just
not,
wish they
it's
had
not weighed
connectivity,
out fairly.
not just the arrows in the street to show you that you can ride your bike down the street. I wish they had connectivity of all the bike routing that is actually segregated. You know, if you went from, say, Quail Hollow Drive, maybe over towards St. Albans, and you connect it to the Greenway, and you go down to Crabtree's Greenway, you know, if you had that whole route, it would make sense. But that's yet to be developed. We're close. Just have to get to St. Albans somehow. Just have to get the Greenway somehow. So we're close. Anything else? Yes.
So, in your opinion, this whole thing with, the North Hills development's a done deal because what the planning?
No, not by any means.
Okay, because the planning board, or who are they, the commission,
Yes,
they approved it,
yes.
and now it goes to city council, right?
I wish I could say the planning commission considered all the factors they should have considered
They
before they
didn't.
made it. They didn't, that's right.
Mhm.
And I looked up the last time the planning commission, they did the same thing. So the vote is very similar to the last time, where last time it was passed by the planning commission
Mhm.
4-1, which means a lot of commissioners were missing, because there's 10 of them. This time it was 7-1 because there were 2 missing.
So, what's the next
The
step?
next step is get it in front of council, they'll set a public hearing. Tomorrow's council meeting, they should do a planning presentation and should schedule the public hearing.
So who does the presentation, Kane or the actual planning board?
It'll be somebody from the planning staff at tomorrow's council meeting. But it'll be nothing more than, this is the outcome of the planning commission, and you need to schedule a public hearing.
So I mean, if I continue to ask for a traffic forecast, I can continue to do
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Because it's ridiculous. You
Well, I've
can't,
already seen the, which did not come up at the planning commission. I've already seen where the temporary, I guess you call it, or intermediate planning commission report was issued, and they called for TIA in there, so. there
but
will
that's a
definitely
different thing, like the TIA is a traffic impact analysis, just driveway, onto the street.
Yeah, it's working.
We need to use that travel demand model, we need to tell them to do their job.
You're the second person I've run into who knows about a traffic demand model.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
what you use to plan for the whole metropolitan
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And Six Forks Road's coded into that network, Beltline's coded into the
The
network.
city
And
doesn't,
it's the tool that they are legally required to use to do a traffic
yeah, but the
forecast.
city doesn't do it. The city doesn't use that tool, so can you run that for me?
No, I
Who
cannot.
can run that?
Well, I mean, the city would have to maybe get a contract, ask someone to run it for them.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's housed at NC State and it's a huge computer program and something like that takes a day or two to run.
So is that your advice, to ask somebody from the city to run it?
My advice is to ask them to contract somebody to do a traffic analysis using that, like, I don't remember his name, the 2050 comprehensive transportation plan, which is built hand in hand with the travel demand model.
Okay.
And then you'll see because all that Kane talks about is, here was the traffic in 2016.
Yeah, I know.
And here was the traffic in 2025.
It hasn't changed it.
We don't care about the traffic in 2025. We want a 20-year planning horizon. We want to see what's out there in 2035. We want to see what's out there in 2050.
Right.
and that
Well,
development,
what makes it really silly is, those of you that are familiar with North Hills East, you know, where they put the traffic light,
uh-huh,
and there's a little road, now it's a four-way road on that intersection. Well, that one extension that's going into their development in North Hills East is supposed to connect to another road that runs behind that development to take the traffic off of St. Albans, and also to provide another way to get to Wake Forest Road. And when you heard Kane representative say, well, we have to have income before we finish the road, it's just totally backwards. They should be building the infrastructure before they do the development.
right, and you have a tool to
I mean,
say what the
we do up
volumes are gonna
north.
be.
So anyhow, getting back to your first question was, a lot of people assume because of the salesmanship of the Kane people, and they did a really good job, I gotta admit. They convinced everybody that they're already allowed to build the 20 stories.
How are they allowed to do that?
No.
They're not,
No,
but that's what they
they're allowed to
said.
build up to 12. And that's what he did with North Hills, Maine, with the residential building he added on Lasper Mill, the North Tower, they're all 12 stories or less. He can do that anytime. He can expand out all of North Hills as long as he doesn't go over 12 stories. He can do it now. But he doesn't want that. He wants more. That's what it really amounts to. So one possibility is, if you allow them to go to 20 stories, if you allow them to go to 20 stories at least has some basis in that it was projected in the Midtown area plan that they could go to 20 stories.
It was rejected?
No,
No,
project.
it proposed, as part of the city plan, they expect more density, so they were gonna allow them to go to 20 stories. Because the expansion, we expected that the Midtown area would grow significantly, and it has, and it will. But there's no model for that, so that's the other approach, is to go with what you're allowed to do, not what you're not allowed to do. And that's what council has to understand. Bottom line is, stick with the city plan.
Right,
City plan forecasts how you're supposed to develop the city.
right,
And when you throw that out the window, as the planning commission did,
right,
then essentially you're creating your own personal view of what Raleigh should look like.
right. And what I'm saying is that travel demand model, what it has coded into that zone is not 20 and it is not 40. What's coded in there is the 12,
Good,
because that's what's in the plan.
good.
In my mind, I haven't looked at it, I haven't read it, but that's how you're supposed to do it. So if you want to really look at what 20 stories is gonna do, you can code that into that traffic analysis zone
Okay,
and run the model. You can put anything in that model and run the model.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, it's, and they've gotta follow what's already set up in these ordinances or these, I don't know what you call them. The 12, and if they wanna change it, they'd have to change that before they could get the approval for the 20 stories or the 40.
really?
Wouldn't they?
I don't know. We're gonna find out. That's a good point, it's something I didn't even know anything about.
It's like a missing middle.
What's missing?
That's different, it's a
No,
little
no,
further down the
no,
road.
no, I know it's not, I know it's not the same, I know it's not the same, that's it. But no, I understand the question is, they should, if they wanna go beyond the 12, then you go back to the 12 and get that handled first.
Right,
As
and look at the
opposed to,
volume that's gonna be.
that's right, as opposed to skipping that step and
Right.
going right to 37. So that's what I mean by, it's a missing middle scenario.
Oh.
They're circumventing, they're bypassing the actual
They're not doing the
procedure.
analysis, they're making decisions without the data.
So,
That's exactly, well, they have the data they want.
yes.
I was gonna,
And I still can't understand where that data came from, because you can't tell me.
it came from the consultant they hired.
Yeah, there's just, oh, they said it comes from the DOT, they told me that.
Everything is
Oh,
based,
yeah,
yeah,
go out
everything
there
is
and
based
put
on
traffic
DOT
cameras out
data,
there.
but it's a question of interpretation, how you use it.
Yeah, cause I was like,
Nobody believes that data.
There you go.
Okay,
I'm just
so,
saying,
Lumen's another NCDOT employee.
Yeah, we know each
Nobody I've
other.
talked to believes that, I don't believe it.
Well,
I've I've watched this all these years, all you gotta do is go out there through the years and you know it's not true.
Right,
And I'll just say that particular solar firm has a reputation knowing, they please who are paying their bill.
yeah, because they're only gonna talk about 2025. They're not gonna talk about 2035 or
If
2050.
traffic in any way has gone down on 6 Forks Road, it's because now all the cut-through traffic's in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay, so
They
just,
run the traffic off 6 Forks into the neighborhoods.
David has added a contribution through the chat, who believes that it will pass through council 5-3 or maybe 6-2. Those are his predictions.
Yeah, I
For the fourth
predict that you
story
may
or
be
for
correct. Pam, do you want me to run through your questions?
Yes, please.
Pam sent me a lot of questions. First one was, she was trying to get more information on the last time this came up in front of council. Because the last time it came up was
23.
Well,
Thank
it
you.
started in 21.
Okay.
Went through 22 and it was pulled out in 23. The reason it was pulled out, basically, affordability became a big issue for it. And came in accordance with the Midtown area plan, was supposed to, anything greater than 7 stories, was supposed to provide affordability. Again, it's guidance. Everything that's been developed in Midtown that is over, well, it's over 7 stories so far, has carried affordability with it. Kane proposed that yes, he would do affordability. He would provide 600 square foot apartment units at an affordable rate for people. Well,
Now he says can't.
the media picked up on that right away. It says, has a family of 4 that 600 square feet.
Yeah,
Careful.
So that became a big issue. Council at the time was a little more receptive to what the people were saying. It was apparent that the votes weren't there to pass council. So he pulled it. It didn't get denied, he pulled it out. With the expectation, probably, when conditions are a little more favorable, he'd bring it back. Well, he did, he brought it back. So they just have to wait 2 years to bring it back. Or before that, if you change the conditions, they actually could have come back before that. Because they did change the conditions. They threw out the bus transit station we were talking about earlier, that was originally part of the North Hills proposal. Land for the fire company that then was valued at $20 million. Now, according to Kane, it's only worth
400,000.
400,000. Yeah. So that land depreciated considerably. What was the other thing that's missing? I think there were some bicycle amenities, but I think the bicycle amenities now are required as well. But that's the big difference. Oh, and they're gonna handle the stormwater, which they're required to do anyway.
All right, so before you move on that one,
So before I move on.
was the team the same?
No.
Interesting.
Name's slipping out. Our former counselor's name.
Mary?
No.
For us,
No.
you talking about,
The guy who worked for Kane. Kane was a counselor.
Oh, yeah.
the guy that
Bonner Gaylord. Bonner Gaylord has, for whatever reason, left the Kane Realty Group. The lady that presented here,
An attorney.
well, the attorneys were,
She is too, the one that.
the attorney was the same. Yeah, she was still the attorney for the first time around.
And they have a second one.
And they have a second attorney now. Yes, they have 2 attorneys. One was not sufficient, although she is pretty good. Jamie is very good. So the team has changed. The approach has changed to make it more community beneficial to have all these buildings, more open space, which, as I pointed out, is more impervious surface for water runoff. So the answer to your question, the overall question is, it's not a done deal. It can be fought. Do I think council will listen? No. Who is Mitchell Silver and how does he usually vote? Nobody knows. He always says follow the plan until it came to the case that was just recently downtown and he voted for it. So he didn't follow the plan. Where is the missing middle case? in the planning commission and council process. It's not. It's one of these build by right processes that gets an administrative review, doesn't come up in front of the planning commission, doesn't come up in front of council. So they don't have a clue as to how much intrusion into neighborhoods there has been with missing middle. The example that we have locally in, I guess, North Hills, but the one that's off of, not Valhalla Drive, but Cedarhurst, where they bought a single family lot, put up 3 duplexes, but they kind of fit, they're right at the end of the road with access to Dawson News.
Right.
So they kind of fit, that's where they belong, that's the idea. I don't mind that, but when they do as they're doing off of Six Forks by Anderson Drive, where they bought 2 single family homes and are putting in 18 townhouses.
On
That-
Anderson,
What's that?
on Anderson Drive?
It's gonna be not on Anderson, whatever that next street is over, but that general area. Yeah. The access will have to come in off of Six Forks. So that's what missing middle does. And that'll get an administrative review, that'll go right through, unless they get sued. I think they're being sued. Any and all published rationale for pulling the Six Forks project. Six Forks project was pulled because the city didn't want to spend money. And it would have been a very expensive road project, one of the most expensive probably for the city. I don't even think the Newburgh BRT route comes up to the same cost. Right? I think it's lower. No, did not cover them all.
And Larry, here, just to add to your missing middle, it looks like we have a
Yeah.
chat, Roberta. It says we're getting 4 townhomes off Northbrook at the entrance to Briar Cliff in a single family lot.
Really?
That's what she says. That's what Roberta says.
How about that? Oh, loss of service. I think that's intended about the intersections that are around North Hills. I stated previously they were rated E's and F's. They still are rated.
And that's
Es.
what I said, okay, so that
Yeah, what
bothers
you
them,
said. Yeah. what
cause
you
I
said,
found
sure.
it too.
Yeah.
All right, so that is a thorn in their, they're like, what are y'all
And it
talking
was
about?
that way
We never
back-
even heard of this.
And it was that way back in 2021 when they did the TIA for the project on Navajo Drive. And obviously, it hasn't gotten better, it's gotten worse. Gotcha.
Who DOT does, NCDOT does loss of service? Who does loss of service?
I think they do as well. Right?
A level of service is just a way to categorize how an intersection functions.
Right.
Or how a stretch of roadway functions.
They did not like that one iota
No,
of
because
a
it says it's
smidgen.
Yeah,
They were, I mean, we were idiots. We never even heard of that. What are you talking about?
Right.
they know what it is.
I mean, that's literally that's gonna be on your report.
You asked about the crime statistics in North Hills. We're always told that we're very fortunate in this area. That's all I can tell you.
Okay?
I can tell you that when they had the riots in summer of 2020, North Hills was very lucky. When they came up to North Hills and they were going to destroy several buildings in North Hills. But the National Guard was called and that shut them down. Other than a couple of broken windows, we were very fortunate.
We are.
Harris Teeter and across the way, yeah. So North Hills will still continue on my agenda. I encourage everybody to, and I'll keep sending pieces out. I know David online is for the density, but I think until there's more infrastructure planning in this area, it's overkill. And there are many other rezonings that have been approved that you haven't seen yet. For example, north side sits along Industrial Drive. It's gonna be a big development, it's gonna come about at some point, where the police station is currently, where the staging place is, where the mail center is, where the TV station is, all that's gonna get redeveloped. Trying to think of some of the others that are just waiting in the wings. Kane is trying to buy the property along Navajo Drive that I mentioned earlier. It was approved for 20-story buildings along the belt line, carries affordability. He has already said that he's not going to build up to they're allowed to, everything they build over a certain number of units has to be within the same number of, well, a certain 10%, I think, has to be affordable. So if he doesn't build up to the entitlement, he doesn't have to build the affordable housing. And he has never built affordable housing anywhere, including Smoky Hollow, where it was the first time that council asked him to go ahead and actually build the affordable housing. He wound up paying towards the affordable housing trust, or whatever they call it.
Geez, how much is affordable rent?
How much is the rent?
No, like what's affordable rent?
What's affordable now? Good
Does
question.
anybody have a
Depends on
dollar?
the measure. It's either 80% of the AMI or 60% of the AMI, the AMI being the average median income. So at times, depending on whether you're working with 80 or 60%, you're right, you're probably talking 80K or 60K for a family of four.
Right, so if the median is up around 90,000 a year, so it'd be about half of that, right, around 60,000 for 60% AMI.
Yeah,
So,
ballpark, very, very broad numbers.
Yeah, so the rent
that's
would
your
turn out to be what,
affordable-
David, around $1,500 a month?
I'm pretty sure that's,
Right.
it's getting more than that.
I think it's about what the going rate would be for an affordable unit. Used to be down 1,100, 1,200, I think it's higher now.
David, is that how you do the math on that? Would that be, you think a good
Yeah,
guess?
so whatever 60% of like 90K is, I haven't looked at the numbers in the last year or two, but that would be the 60%. So then you run into the question, is it easier to provide funding towards that and let city work with the groups that actually provide affordable housing and provide it in areas where it's easier to make that $1,300 work? Or do you have Kane provide fewer units in a really nice place? So yes, Kane, when they put up units in Midtown, those are expensive. If you provide into the funding, you can stretch that money farther by making those affordable units in other parts of the city where the rent in some places is still down at 1,100. I mean, my stepson's in an apartment that's cheap off of Six Forks, farther north towards Strickland, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
Cheaper.
And there are some downtown as well that are cheaper, yes. The figure for contribution to the fund is $40,000 per residential unit for affordable housing. Now, I don't think there's any builder out there that can build an affordable unit for $40,000. Is that correct, David?
Yeah, not a new unit. Sometimes they refurbish stuff, right? Or you have like the Raleigh Area Land Trust, which is kind of unique, where you buy the house and build equity towards the house or townhome, but don't actually own the land underneath the house. So I think you've had a presentation at some point in the last 2 years about Raleigh Area Land Trust. I'd have to go back and look at the documents for that. You got to follow the financing of it, but it does allow people to build up equity in a townhome, which is the big
Right.
bonus, right? Affordable housing where you don't get equity means you haven't really built wealth to eventually get yourself out of that situation. That's why
Right.
most renters these days struggle to save up for a first-time home. And why your average first-time home buyer in this country is now roughly 40, which is
Yes.
2 generations away. So
Yes.
Don't
build,
worry.
baby, build. Huh?
We're about to get the 100-year mortgage, so don't worry.
Now, the other alternative, of course, is you provide less square feet for, depending what you want your rate to be.
Oh
for-
yeah, no, I know. I'm in 1,500 square foot, and you can't find a new home that's 1,500 square feet anywhere in the city of Raleigh anymore.
That's right.
Everybody wants big.
Yeah, and then those of us that are looking to downsize can't find it. That's right.
Wow.
All right, anything else?
Yes.
Our
Yes, I'm still here. Okay, so it was a little, did not show up in this, which literally I had on, like, last minute, I'm like driving to work going, all right, I can't sleep if I don't go and try. Thank you for bringing me a sweater. I have a feeling that flannel and peanuts on the back is not gonna do it.
Correct.
So, I was not prepared for, like, you have 10 minutes for your whole side, and I'm going, what the heck?
what is the protocol for speakers?
Well, you
at
heard,
city?
you heard what the planning commission did. You saw when they tacked on 2 more minutes.
Yes,
That lady.
Okay, and they have that, council has that same provision. At the public hearing, everybody should know this, at the public hearing, they'll give you 8, 10 minutes, whatever they give you. And if you still have something, if there's somebody new and still has something to say, didn't get a chance to say it, a counselor sitting on the little desk they have up front can say, I want to allow more time for that person to have their say. That's within their right, to give you more speaking time as the public. Do they do that? No. Can they do that? Yes.
okay, so it's.
But you have to do like planning commission got away with it when I said, I gotta still have more time. If I did that at the council meeting, I'd have the sergeant at arms behind me and say, please sit down, please lower your arm, please sit down. You can't do it there. It breaks their decorum.
So it's a little more, so there's 10 minutes, that's it.
They'll set that time, whatever it's gonna be.
Is it likely that it's going to be more than 10 minutes?
No.
But Kane got more than 10 minutes in the
Yes.
presentation.
The applicants always get more time because they're asking questions of the applicant. So they get tons of time. That's why the best thing to do is I try before to reserve some time to speak after the applicant does till Jamie, the lawyer, whoever it might be, does their part. And the council asks their questions and they don't get the right answer from either staff or the lawyers. Yet the public knows what the correct answer is. So you need that opportunity to say, hey, I can provide that answer for you.
Oh.
And that's happened before. Hard.
I don't want to be a bad chat monitor. So Roberta's just adding some context to where the townhouses are going. It's the corner lot. It's the lot at the corner of Terry and Elwood. I guess it's the same developer that wanted to buy the lots behind St. Mark's to put up the apartments.
Yes,
But it didn't happen because it was dependent on the Six Forks project moving forward. So I guess if the project dies, then the apartments die behind St. Mark's.
I think
That's her perspective.
That's Bennett's, ask her if that's Bennett's house.
Yes, that's, I live across the street from that. And so he has submitted plans to build 4 dwelling units on the lot where Miss Bennett's house sits. 1 residential lot, he's planning on putting 4 dwelling units. But as far as I know, not all the steps have been, he hasn't satisfied all the steps he needs to do to start that.
Okay.
But, I mean, I feel like it's probably a matter of time.
Yeah, he has to go through what they call the subdivision process where he divides up the lot. But then again, like I said before, it gets to administrative use, so he'll never go in front of planning commission, he'll never go in front of council. And he has to build, he'll build by right, basically. And that's classic missing middle.
Are you Angie?
Yes.
Roberta said, good job.
Yeah, I'd like to stay in touch with that, see what's going on there.
Me too.
Yeah. They were here last summer, right? Last summer. Wasn't this year, last summer, I think. Yeah. Gone on for about a year at least. Yep. Anything else? We're actually out of time. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody coming. Our speakers did show up.